Well, this year is the all-new Tata Altroz for 2025. It's a car which officially takes on the likes of the Hyundai i20 as well as the Maruti Suzuki Baleno. And in terms of the price point, it also takes on the likes of the Hyundai Extra as well as its own cousin, the Tata Punch. So, has the Altroz got what it takes to stay ahead of the competition, or is it a case of too little, too late? We'll find out on the show today. We have driven both the petrol CNG version as well as the diesel version of the car in this video review. So do stay tuned till the end to find out all about the new Altroz 2025. Now, in terms of looks, the silhouette of this car is exactly like the older version, but you do get a heavily reshaped or botoxed face. Yes, this car's face is much different now. You get much more angular lamps which house LED projectors in them, multiple elements inside the headlamps. You also get a different bumper which has lots of cuts and creases and also lots of air dams all across. The side profile is similar to the earlier car, but you get flush door handles now, and you also get 16-inch wheels which look pretty cool on the Altroz. Overall, it's a nice and balanced look. At the back, you get completely blackened out effect for the tail lamps, along with a connected beam of light, which is now the international trend. Overall, the Altroz looks fresh, modern, appealing, and sophisticated as well. In my book, it is probably the best looking hatchback in the market right now at this price point. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me show you the boot of this car. Now, this is the CNG version of the car, which basically means that you get twin cylinder technology in this car, which means that Tata Motors has split up the cylinders and given you two instead of one, so you can get quite a usable boot inside this car. Now, it's not the most spacious boot, it's not the deepest boot, but considering it's a CNG, it is quite decent. You can keep in at least two big bags and maybe one small duffel bag, or if you really want to keep a big huge piece of suitcase, you can remove the shelf over here and put that one large item of suitcase. But it's not a huge boot. Don't think that you can take this car to pick up your mother-in-law from the airport, because it's not got too much space, so she won't be happy if you take this car. But then you will be happy because you can tell her to stay only for a week and get clothes for only a week, because the boot of the car is very small. So it's a smart move on your part, but it could ruin the peace at home. But jokes apart, if you're planning a weekend getaway, if you're planning your trip to the mall for some weekend shopping, or maybe the monthly groceries, for those things the boot is quite sufficient. Two big bags can easily be accommodated, and maybe three small pieces or medium pieces can easily accommodate once you remove the shelf over here. I'll give a respectable score of 8 out of 10 considering it's a CNG car. Well, so now in the back seat of the Tata Altroz, and just like the front seat, you get almost 90 degrees opening for the door over here, which means that if you're somebody who's not really keen on crawling inside a car and you just want to enter in your own style, then it's quite easy to enter and exit this car. Nice and large windows as well, so you never feel claustrophobic. And of course, this beige fabric also makes the cabin feel much more airy, much more brighter than it really is. The negative of course, that side is that it tends to get rather soiled easily, because you have kids over here in the car who always eat chocolates and stuff like that, and they can just rub their hands, so it will get a little soiled easily. And also your sweat stains show on this, so that's something which is good for the dry cleaners, because they will obviously charge you quite a lot every time it goes for servicing. But bad news for you, because you'll have to spend a little more on dry cleaning. Now, the positives are that you get pockets over here. The floorboard is completely flat, so whoever's sitting in the middle has plenty of place to stretch his feet. AC vents and USB Type-C fast charger, 65-watt charge over here, so you can charge your mobile devices really fast. An armrest as well with a couple of beverage holders. And the seats themselves, you get a nice almost 90-degree angle for the knee and hip, so you sit here in great comfort. The only negative is that there's no headrest over here for the middle passenger, because that is something which aids safety as well as comfort, and that is something which is missing. But apart from that, it's quite a good car in terms of space. I'll give it a good score of 9 out of 10. Well, so the first thing you really appreciate about the Altroz is the way the doors shut. Very reassuring sound and very solid feeling. So you feel a sense of reassurance when you drive this car with your family, because you're sitting inside a very safe and secure car. The other thing that you'll really appreciate is this. The doors, as you can see, they open nice and wide at an almost 90-degree angle, which again means that getting in and out is quite an easy affair, because the aperture is really wide. But that also means that closing this door You just have to, stretch yourself a little bit more. Apart from those things, the cabin now feels quite nice and upmarket. Even the earlier generation of this car used to feel very upmarket and very European and very sophisticated in its feel. And this one also feels nice and sophisticated and very posh. So Tata's done a good job with the overall look and feel. The materials also, the quality seems to have gone up a notch, and there aren't any jarring plastics inside the cabin. Earlier, there was some, cheap plastics on the lower part of the center console, and some buttons on the steering wheel weren't really up to it. But on this particular new version, this is really packed, and it really does look quite good in terms of the features. You get automatic headlamps, you get rain sensing wipers, you get cruise control, you get a 360-degree camera, you also get automatic climate control along with three different USBs. In fact, two different USBs and one 12-volt charging point, USB Type-C and old school, and you also get ambient lighting. You also get a video player which you can play through the USB, but of course you have to stop the car for that. And in the ambient lighting, you can choose different colors or you can choose different modes depending on what your preference really is. And you also get driver assistance. For example, you get park assist, which means that you can use the tones and the volume, and you also get blind spot monitor. So you don't get ADAS as yet, but you do get these things in this car. You also get lots of places to keep your odds and ends, big door pins where you can keep those bottles, wireless charger where you can keep your phone, and of course Coke cans can go over here. A huge glove box, massive glove box, and the best point is the seats on this car are very comfortable, and they're the best seats in the business. Even when you compare it with the i20 and the Baleno, which are its main rivals, even then you'll say that the seats on the Altroz are better than both those cars. In terms of the quality, it comes very close to both those cars. I think that the i20 still has the edge amongst all these three in terms of outright quality and outright features, but this one also is generally quite good and takes on the Baleno in its own right. Before I forget, you get a sunroof as well, because this is everybody's favorite feature. That is something which is missing on the Baleno. Front end of the cabin gets a good score of 9 out of 10. Well, I'm sure by now all of you are aware that Woodmore are the online expert when it comes to spare parts, and the best point is that they have the spare parts for all vehicles available in India. So even if your car is out of production now, maybe you have a large generation model, even then they have the spare part available. They have the entire catalog, and the best point is that they have the same spare part from a host of different component makers, which gives you great flexibility in the pricing overall. Well, so here I'm driving the new Tata Altroz, and it's a car which doesn't really need any introduction because we've already driven it so many times. If you haven't seen my previous videos, you can check out by typing in the box below. Now, the big plus point about this car, the big strength that this car has to offer, is the fact that it offers you a very, very, very good ride. In fact, it's the best car in terms of outright ride comfort when you compare it with its main rivals, the Maruti Suzuki Baleno as well as the Hyundai i20. It's the best car amongst all these three in terms of pure ride comfort. The ride is very pliant, it's very absorbent, and it doesn't matter what kind of surface you're driving on. You might be driving on broken patches of road, on rumble strips, maybe on the highway. It's a very, very consenting ride, and especially at the highway at faster speeds, it just stays very stable, very reassuring, and just gives you a sense of great confidence even when you push it up to 100, 120 kph. The steering wheel also gives you a great sense of reassurance, great sense of confidence, because it definitely gives you very good feedback, very genuine feedback. And even though it's on the firmer side, it's on the heavier side, even then you will enjoy using it quite a lot, because people do enjoy using these steering wheels. If you push it into corners, if you take this car up the hills and you decide to push it up the corners, then you will be rewarded, because the dynamics of this car are genuinely very good, and that's something that Tata Motors can be proud about, because they have delivered a car which offers you very good driving dynamics and very good ride comfort. In fact, the ride comfort is so good, I'll say that it doesn't feel like you're driving in a hatchback. It feels as if you're riding around in a mid-size sedan, or probably even a mid-size SUV. The ride really is that good. So they've really done a solid job with your all suspension setup, the tuning. It has the right mix of comfort as well as agility, and that is something quite good. Now, talking about the other positive points, when you drive this car in CNG mode, it doesn't really have a major drop in the city. It doesn't have a visible drop in performance in city. Of course, there is a drop. You can't negate that, because CNG does obviously have a drop in performance. But in the city, it's very, barely visible. It's not visible at all. But out there on the highway, that is something that, you'll have to immediately realize that you have to switch back to petrol to get the best out of the engine and get to that overtaking. Because when you're overtaking, it is slower. especially when you're overtaking slow moving trucks and buses and stuff like that. So over there, it does, take a little longer on CNG mode, but that's, the case with all other cars in this segment. All other CNG cars as well offer you slightly lower performance, so there's nothing new about that. But in the city, you will hardly be able to tell the difference. If you're driving in chock or block city traffic, it's going to be very, very marginal, and you won't be able to tell too much of a difference. Now, that is the positive side of things. The downside is that the engine is still not as good, as refined, as smooth, or as responsive as the ones on both the Baleno. The Baleno's 1.2 older K-series engine is just a delight to operate. It's a fantastic engine. It's just brilliant to use. And of course, the Hyundai's 1.2 is also not bad in terms of refinement. Very quiet engine. This one tends to become loud once you cross around 3000 RPM. If you take it up the hills and you're constantly changing gears, it does tend to become a little loud, and it also doesn't feel very responsive at the lower end of its power band. So you have to rev it up to get it going, and for that you have to really wring the neck of this engine and keep it in the right gear, because if you drop it in the wrong gear and if the RPMs go down, then the performance also drops. So that is something which I think Tata Motors should have worked on. Maybe if you drive the turbo version, we might feel slightly better, but to be honest, this is naturally aspirated, and we're not really big fans of this particular engine because it could have been a lot better. And with this new facelift, Tata Motors could have and should have improved the overall performance aspects of this car. That said, the gearbox, well, it's again not as good as either the Hyundai or even the Baleno. So that is also one area where it's lacking. The gearbox is a little notchy, it needs a heavy hand to shift, and sometimes you might be slotting it in fifth gear and might accidentally go into third, and that is something which is there. It's a bit of a problem with this gearbox, and it's not the smoothest or the slickest gearbox in the business. So those are things which I think they could improve. So drivetrain wise, the car falls back. Dynamically, it's the better car off the lot. It's the best car in the segment dynamically, comfort wise, dynamic wise, steering wheel input wise, but just the engine department is lacking on this car. Maybe if you drive the diesel, we might have a different opinion. Anyways, I'll give it a respectable score of 7 out of 10. It's not all bad, but just when you compare it with its rivals, it does fall short. So right now I'm driving the diesel engine of the Tata Altroz, and immediately after driving the petrol all day long, I can notice that this one feels a little more responsive. This one feels like it's got a little better torque, and it just has better pulling power, and it's more enjoyable to drive. Yes, I'm saying it outright that if you're choosing between the petrol and the diesel, I would definitely stick my neck and say the diesel is the one to go for. Now, some of you might say that there's a NGT ban on diesel vehicles. The life is limited to only 10 years in the New Delhi NCR region, and petrol you can keep for 15 years. To be honest, nobody's keeping their cars for 15 years or 10 years anymore. Very few people do actually care about keeping their cars so long. Most people sell off their cars as soon as the EMI goes off, maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years, maybe 5 years maximum, because in today's day and age where you only live once is the motto of most youth and of most people after the COVID crisis. Everybody wants to get the latest, everyone wants to upgrade immediately. So don't think about it and say that I want the petrol because I can keep the car longer, because the diesel is the more fun car to drive. It's got definitely better driving dynamics for sure, because it's got the better engine. Now what I like about this car is the fact that it's quite refined. Even though it's a diesel, you don't feel like it's a diesel when you're on the cruise, and when you're cruising on the highway in the city, like we're doing about 70 right now outside the Bombay, outside the Bangalore city, we're feeling quite good about it. 60-70 is the speed limit, 18-70 inside the city, 60 inside the city, 80-90 on the highway, 100 on the highway, and this car is really feeling rock solid in terms of the overall stability. It feels damn good because the tires are doing their job very well. The MRF tires on this car, and they're offering you very good grip. The braking is very good, and even though you can feel the additional weight of the diesel engine up ahead, it can, the car is feeling a little nose heavy. That's something that you can immediately notice, and the steering also is feeling a little heavier. But even then, there's a sense of driver involvement, even though it might be very little, but there's a sense of better involvement for the driver compared to the petrol. So it's a better car for driving yourself. The diesel engine, as I said, is mostly quiet. It's only when you really rev it hard and take it up beyond 3,500 RPM that it becomes a little loud, but it is quite decent for most of the parts. Visibility is quite good, steering wheel input is quite good. Even though suspension has been stiffened up slightly, it's not feeling very hard or very stiff. It's feeling quite comfortable. High speed stability is good. The gearbox, though, on both the cars isn't the best. This one is slightly better than the petrol. I don't know, maybe since I've used the petrol and got used to it, I'm feeling like this is slightly better. But definitely the gearbox isn't a strong suit of the Altroz, be it the petrol or the diesel. So really, that's something that is something you have to get used to. But the clutch, like on most diesels, is slightly on the firmer side. But once you get used to that, no issues whatsoever. Buy the diesel, you'll be much more satisfied. I'll give a strong score of 8.5 out of 10 in the driving department. Thanks, that's for watching. Well, so what's my final verdict with the new Tata Altroz? I have to say that this car is a big improvement. It feels more posh, it feels more opulent, and it definitely has a sophisticated charm about itself, not only in terms of the looks on the outside, but also the way it rides. The ride comfort is the best in the segment. The build quality also feels the most solid in this segment, and all that along with the Tata safety record means that you'll feel safe, secure, and very reassured when you're sitting inside this car. How is it? But in terms of drive, we have to say that the petrol motor is still a little underwhelming compared to the Baleno and the i20. But that said, with the CNG power, it means and it makes quite a lot of sense. If you're planning to buy a car for fuel efficiency, then the diesel version of this car really is the one to go for. It's the best option out there in terms of pure fuel efficiency as well as torque. And overall, I'll give this car a respectable score of 92 out of 100. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.